Hey guys, welcome to the Neglected Podcast. This podcast is not to change your mind, but to invite you into somebody else's narrative. This is a podcast to give a voice to the neglected. It is also an opportunity for all of us to engage.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Neglected Podcast. My name is Nick Schultz, and as always, I'm joined with our producer, DJ, the man, the myth, the legend, Quinn Harris.
What up?
How's it going?
Pretty good.
You know how excited I am today, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you see my shirt?
Yeah.
You see my shirt?
Yeah,
See I got all my Rwandan stuff over here. So we've got a true, authentic Rwandan here today
100%.
that we're going to introduce. And the interesting thing, Quinn, and I didn't tell him I was going to say this, but we found each other because he was actually like stalking me on social media, like Instagram.
True story.
And
really?
He reached out to me, and like I didn't realize he was just like checking out what I was doing and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of true, right?
Yeah, it is. Actually, I was hashtagging Rwanda, and I'm like, oh wow, that people are doing a lot of missionary work. And I see you, I was like, click the picture, swipe left. I was like, oh my goodness. And then I seen that you were part of the church. I was like, wait, they have a mission team. I was like, oh my goodness, like this guy from Savannah, and he's in Rwanda. I was like, okay. So yeah, and that's when I wrote to you. And I was like, hey man, we need to get up as soon as you get back. And sure enough, there you are.
That's how it happened. That's how it happened. Man. But maybe we should allow you to introduce yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Too,
Okay.
So introduce you. Say your full name, please.
The full thing?
Oh, okay. The full thing, man.
All right. So my name is Theo Brown-Tuyishimire. That's my Rwandan name, but my American name is Theo Brown-T. I don't have a middle name, so so whenever I got married, me and my wife decided to make our own name because it's cultural in our, in the Rwandan culture, everybody has their own last name.
Yeah.
So we're like, hey, let's create our own last name so nobody else has this name. It's Brown-Tuyishimire. So whenever we get our background checks, they come back in 5 minutes because there's only two of us.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
that's awesome.
How sweet is that if you get to make up your own name?
That's legit.
That's really I mean, because it literally happened in 2009. Whenever I got my citizenship, they were like, "Hey, you do have the option to change your name." So I was like, "Nah, I'm still gonna keep it African, but then I'm also gonna add a little American twist to it." So that's where the brown part came.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Imana Ishimwe. Theo Morakazaneza.
Thank you, Nick. See, and this is the crazy thing. He speaks more fluent Rwanda than I do, which should be shameful. But but where I came to the States in '94, so I was 8.5, 9 years old, and I've been speaking English ever since, or '95 since. And my parents made it a point to not let us speak Rwanda at the house at all until we learned English. So you're literally forced to brain dump everything that you know and learn a different language. And then once you try to go back, now you have an accent. So whenever I go back to our community, they're like, you're not Rwandan. And I was like, but I am.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, you're not. They're like, you have an accent. I was like, oh, well, I mean, it's literally almost I don't know what to tell them. Because I was up there 2 weekends ago and they were like, are you adopted? I was like, no, that's my mom and dad. They were like, no, you got to be adopted. I was like, no, because they didn't really see me a whole lot because whenever I left, I joined the military in 2006. I wasn't really going back and forth to the house. So they didn't really see me. So the people who's been there for the last 10 years don't really know who I am. And so they were like, yeah, you got to be adopted because nobody has a full beard. I don't know what it is. I was able to grow a full beard. And so whenever I go home, I look like a complete stranger. I don't look Rwandan at all. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what that's all about, but here I am.
Here you are, and we're glad you're here. And we tried to make it as comfortable as we could here. I mean, I've got my authentic
I like that.
Rwandan shirt. It was made in Rwanda, fitted for my specific body dimensions.
It's beautiful, Nick. I like it.
You go to the market, you pick out you just pick out the fabric you want, then you go to another place and they measure you, and then you come back a few days later.
And you got a shirt.
You've got a shirt, but then they fit it, so if it's tight, they loosen it up. If it needs to be tighter, they do that. And it's the real deal, man.
That's the real deal, man.
So legit. It is legit. But Theo actually gave me the shirt I was wearing earlier when I came in, the one he's wearing now. He's got that American and Rwandan shirt.
I got the half and half.
And so I told him as soon as I saw him wear that, it was online or something, I was just like, you got to tell me where you got that. Because I've been to Rwanda 5 times. I'm going to go for the 6th time in a couple months now. But I think I'm part Rwandan. I really do. And they tell me over there that I am now. It's more to make me feel better because I want to be. But I think well, now that actually Black Panther came out, and Wakanda's over there too.
Yeah.
I brought,
Listen,
Prince T'Challa.
That's probably more legit than the actual movie itself. I like that.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
I like that.
But I think I'm, somewhere like 50%
I think
American, like 30.
No, it trips me out.
Rwandan,
though,
20 Wakandan. I don't know.
Like anytime you text me anything in Rwanda, I have to really think about what I'm gonna text back because I'm like, whoa, like you kind of throw a curveball at me. I'm like, how do you spell that? Like I'm literally going through the motions. Like I have to reach all the way in the back of my head to try to get just a proper response back. And so I'm just like, man, Nick is more Rwandan than I am.
Ooh, man, that felt
terrible.
so good to hear that. Felt so good. But you're the only one I can talk to in person here.
That's true.
In Kinyarwanda.
Right.
Where, I can text it to other people that are over there, email.
Right.
But when you're learning a language and it's such a small country, and there's no reason for anyone else here to, it's not Spanish, it's not French.
Yeah.
Nobody needs to know it. And even online, there's not even good resources to do it. So you need to do it with someone.
It's pretty thin.
I got the book in my backpack right now.
Do you
one
really?
of only 2 books I think is that good.
Oh my goodness!
To practice with.
Literally, other than the Bible, like the translated Rwandan Bible, like you won't find a lot of literature unless you go back.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
cool, man. Well, let's talk about going back and leaving. I want to get into it because, man, your story is just pretty incredible. And like someone just sees you on the street here in Savannah, and they see you in your barbershop or they see you walking down the street. First of all, people aren't probably going to think you're African.
No,
they're not going to think. Definitely not going to think you're Rwandan.
Africans don't think I'm African,
right?
So yeah.
So I want to get into that a little bit, but kind of take us back to childhood, and really it's just a powerful story of what happened with your family, kind of leading up 1994 genocide in Rwanda.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously your age, you were still alive then,
right?
And so kind of walk us through that of what was going on and what happened with your family and how you ended up over here.
Whew. So that's a long story, but I'm gonna try to give you the big points or the condensed version of it.
Yep.
So 94, all that happens. It was actually happened in April. The president gets shot down in a plane along with another dignitary from a different country.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 tribes, the Hutu tribe and the Tutsi tribe, they go at it. It literally started that night. Like I remember hearing, because we didn't live that far from the airport, so I remember hearing a big boom, but that was common because it was kind of like. Leading up to that, there was like a lot of coups, where this little tribal sectors, like they would, I'll call them more like gangs, like they would kind of fight each other. So like it wasn't uncommon to hear gunfire, wasn't uncommon to hear people screaming. So
and how old were you during that time?
I was like 8, because my brother's in August. So yeah, I was 7.5 going on 8 at that time, because whenever I got to America, that was like in October. I was already 9.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I was 8, and so all that's going on. As soon as we heard that, my mom turns on the radio. She's like, "Oh wow! Like the it just got announced that the president's dead." So now, you literally like as soon as it was almost kind of synchronized. Like as soon as she said that, like you heard just a bunch of stuff interrupt. Like people screaming, people yelling, a lot of people shouting. So we lived in a house that was it was like a 3-bedroom house, and so she gathered everybody in the house. She put us all like in the corridor. It was probably about the size of maybe half of this room wise, and so like we had some people who lived with us, so we all went in there. It's probably about 10 people in a little closet space, and and we're in there, and we kind of stayed in there until things kind of calmed down, and then we looked outside. It was literally like the fog of war. It's like this eerie silence, like the birds aren't even chirping. It's just dead, right? And you kind of just like, I don't know if you've ever seen a movie where it's like the apocalypse or like the zombie movies where it's like right before everything erupts, it's like quiet, and like you see people just like emerging from like their hiding spots, like looking around, like that's literally how it felt like, because we got out and we're looking outside. We didn't see anybody, we didn't hear anything, and then it seemed like all of a sudden it just re-erupted again, and that was a gang had formed to literally just go around killing people. Like that's literally what it was.
And they were ready, like when that plane went down. Like,
yeah,
they were already ready to go.
Right.
Did your family know? I mean, maybe not you as a kid, but did your parents know what that meant once the plane went down? Like,
no.
It's about to go down, or no?
Because there was a lot of people. You growing up in a political divided country, like you tend to learn to read the political climate, or you tend to learn to read the people. But we didn't know. But apparently other families knew. Other people who were in the know, they knew what was going on. So they had already kind of sent family members out like about a month ahead, and we didn't think nothing of it. But
was it based on tribe that people knew?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So more of the I would say the Tutsi tribe people who we knew. Kind of looking back now, it's like, oh, they must have known, because like a month ahead they sent their kids off somewhere else, but they stayed. Or I know our neighbors, they sent like their 3 sons away. We didn't think nothing of it.
Yeah.
But their daughters stayed. Now looking back, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And so again, we didn't think nothing of it. At that time, my dad was in America. He was going to a Bible college in Kentucky. Kentucky Mountain Bible College, and so
your dad was gone when the genocide started.
Right.
Oh
yeah.
Wow. And
yeah.
Your mom was in kind of leading the family.
Yeah. So my mom was the head of the household at that time, because he had gone back and forth to America to study, and so like he had left in '93. So he had until about the end of '94 to come back, but whenever the war started, like that was pretty much it. Like there was like. That was it. And so we didn't really know how to get a hold of him, when to get a hold of him. So we didn't talk to him for a good 3-4 months, at that time. So he was thinking that we're dead. Like, because we lived in a city. So it's like everybody in the city was like, if you didn't hear from them, you just might as well just assume that they're dead.
You were in Kigali, the capital?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so once all that happened, our neighbors, he was a mayor, and he had some protection, he had some bodyguards, and he had, his house was pretty well fortified. So they let us kind of slip through the gate, and stay at their place for a good week or so, until it got to the point where they couldn't even stay. And so we were literally like in the heat of it for a good 2.5 weeks.
And that's when the most of the killing was happening, those first 90
right,
days, right?
Right. Yeah, like the first 90 days, that was like the hot 90 days. So we're there. Our neighbors got killed because their daughters jumped the fence and they came to our house. And so whenever they jumped the fence, whoever was torturing their parents jumped the fence following them, they came to our house. So at that time, but like that was literally like 2 nights after everything like just went off, and we're wondering what's going on, because all we hear just screaming. Like it was like I can still remember it. It's like a scream that you never can describe, because it wasn't somebody screaming out of like agony. It was beyond agony. It was like, I don't know how to describe it, but it was like if you ever heard somebody like just in excruciating pain screaming, but then put on top of that the fact that he's also getting chopped by machetes as he's screaming. It was an awful sound. So we're hearing that, but we don't know who it is. So lo and behold, it's a neighbor. So his daughter, well, it was 2 older daughters and 1 young little girl that lived there, and they raped and killed the little girl and the mom. The 2 older siblings were the ones that jumped the fence to come to our house. So whenever my mom seen them come down, she went ahead and took him in. So whoever, like the mob that was at the house, seen them come into our house, seen my mom bring him in. And so they were trying to tell us that, hey, y'all got to leave, because they're coming down here too. They were talking about coming down to this house next. My mom's like, I mean, where are we going to go? So we literally just hunkered down and prayed. Like that was like the only answer to any of that. So we're literally like in this little corridor, got 10 of us. Like we're in the ready to meet Jesus position, because we're just like kind of like, at this point, we got nothing left. So why not pray? So like we're literally praying our hearts out, and the mob comes over. They break into the house, and we hear them breaking into the next bedroom right next to the corridor. They're in there. They're screaming. They're yelling. There's another mob in the living room. They literally got a whole entire house ransacked, and we're literally in that little corridor, like just praying for a miracle at that time. And it was weird because like I still get chills talking about this, because it was like when you hear and see, well, it's mostly when you hear God working, you don't really question it because it's not what you expect. So we're praying for a miracle. They're in the house, and all of a sudden it gets really quiet, and all you hear is murmuring, and then all you hear is screaming because they're leaving. So we don't know what happened because we were on the other side of the wall. But all we heard was silence and screaming, and they left. It was literally like, we don't know what happened, but we heard it's like, hey, this is the pastor's house. Let's get out of here. Like it was like a frantic, like they got scared and left.
Wow. So
we're like, wow, that's a God moment. So as soon as that happened, we're like, okay, hey, let's get out of here. So we waited for them to leave until nightfall, and then we went to our neighbor's house, who was a mayor, and then we stayed there for about a good week. That other neighbor who jumped the fence, his body was in front of our yard. So we like literally for the 3 or 4 days, his body was there. His daughters would see his body like just chopped up in pieces. And then it was like it's weird because like you don't feel emotion,
right?
Because you're so detached from it, because it's your brain and your body wants to feel that that's normal, so you don't rationalize it. You just go through. You just literally just go through it. So his body being there, it was kind of like, okay, like it wasn't a thought like his body shouldn't be here. It was more like accept it as that, and that's what it was. So once they removed his body, it was like another mob that came through, removed his body, stole all the jewelry off of the body. Like we were literally watching them remove the body. We're like, because they were just dumping everybody in, it just mass graves, like right next door to our housing complex. And so once that happened, the war got worse. Like literally everybody in the city had already cleared out, and we were like the last wave to leave. And literally when we left, it was kind of I forgot what movie it is, but you literally see like as you leaving, like the town burned down. Like that's what it felt like. And so we leave, and we go to my mom's parents. They lived in Ichangugu, which is probably about a good 8 hours away drive, about a 2-day walk. So we were able to get a vehicle, put about 20 people in this small little van, wow. And just left the left that whole entire town. And then we got to a checkpoint where they offloaded everybody, and they took the van to go collect bodies.
They took your van?
Yeah, so like they took the van that we were in.
Oh my goodness. To
go collect bodies.
Wow.
So we were literally there because like checkpoints were honestly made by the gangs. Like they weren't really like a military checkpoint. It was just dudes with guns.
When you're checking IDs too, right?
No, they're not really checking IDs. They're not really checking anything. They're literally just checking to make sure you're not one of the tribe people that's trying to leave. Like,
so but are they trying to identify if someone's Hutu or Tutsi,
right.
If they need to be killed or not?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so they got all of us kind of like rounded up in this little corner. Like it was like the killing corner, because you could kind of tell it was like kind of like got kind of blast splatters like everywhere. It was like you're kind of just sitting there just literally just waiting to die, really. So they go and they take the van that we're in. It was like about a good 4 or 5 hours. They bring it back. It got blood everywhere. It got guts in like inside the van. We get back in the van and we keep driving, because at that point at least we got transportation. Mm-hmm. So we left, and then we got to where the van really couldn't go any further, because my grandparents had lived in the countryside at that time. So we had to go on foot. So this is probably about day two into the whole evacuation trip, and then nightfall came. As we're walking, stopped by where everybody else is trying to sleep at. It was like pretty much just like a big, huge open field, and we kind of hunkered down. At this time, it's me, my brother, my mom, and that's like as far as family wise go is just the four of us. Yeah, me, my brother, my sister, and my mom, and we're trying to sleep. We get separated. Like I get separated from the rest of my group because it was like nighttime, so it was like all we heard was screaming and everybody runs.
Right.
And I'm like, whoa. I'm like for a good like 5 hours, I can't find my mom, I can't find my brother.
8 years old, man.
Yeah, I'm literally like I'm on my, like I think about that and I'm like, wow, I was probably gonna be one of those kids of war. Like that was it. Like luckily, I heard my mom's voice and I just started running towards it, found him, and we just started walking. We're like, we're not staying here. So at night time, we literally just started walking. At this point, my mom, she's the only person that we got. So it's the two boys and Grace. So my siblings, Tim and Grace, she was 5. Yeah, she was 5. Tim is a year and a half older than I am. So we're all still under the age of 10, and she's just like, we gotta go, and so she takes all of us, all three of us. We just start walking. At this point, my mom is just, I mean, she's tired, she's devastated, she's in tears, because I mean, she knows where she's going, but she doesn't know if we're gonna get there.
Right. And what are you doing for food or water during any of this time?
Nothing. Like we managed to get whatever, because when we left our house, we left everything, so like we literally just fled.
Yeah.
And so the little cash that we had on us, we had already used to kind of pitch in for the van, and the little left, we're just holding on to it just in case. So it's like food and water wasn't really a priority at that time. Survival was, because you know how like when you're in that survival mode, nothing else matters until you're safe.
Yeah.
And so we finally get to a point where there wasn't a whole lot of people. Like life in a countryside seemed normal, because it's like the war hadn't completely got to that point yet. Mm-hmm. So you see farmers in the land just tearing up the yard, like just farming like it's regular Sunday or Monday, and you just kind of like, do you all not know what is going on like 8 hours away.
Wow.
Like y'all don't know what's coming this way,
And they might not.
right? And you know, and you're right. And to their point, they didn't, because they were literally just going through the motions of the day, like it was normal.
Man.
Yeah. So we got to our grandparents' house, and we stayed there for about 2 months, a good 2 months, until the war started getting up that way, because it was rumored, but it hadn't really spread to that point yet. So we get there, we're there, everything's good. We started going to school. We literally started just like trying to regain our senses and trying to relive like a normal life, and then you start hearing rumors of, because like at that point it wasn't mass killings, it was just hate. Like just like hatred has like sipped from the city all the way up, all the way up to the countryside, and now like you're literally hearing people just like rumors, like, hey, did you hear about so and so? He's a Tutsi, or he's a Hutu, or his such and such family was killing somebody else's family. Let's go kill him. Like it was like just that hush of just rumors, and sure enough, like this one family that my mom knew, which when we were coming up from the city, we had passed a family on the side of the road, but we didn't know what they were doing. So they were waiting to get transported out, because those little rumors, they were like, hey, that family's gonna like that's the next family to get killed.
Wow.
And so we say hi to them, and my mom talked to them, because I guess the mom and my mom were really good friends, and we later heard like 2 days later, there was an outside an outhouse that they put the whole family in the outhouse, which was just a big hole, and they put them all upside down, and they left them for dead, except for the daughter they put right side up, so that she could scream like that, like
Just to mess with them, probably.
yeah. You literally see human nature at its worst.
Ugh.
And you're like, who thinks of this? Like, honestly, like, what type of mind do you have to think of this like nonsense? Like, this is like this torturous nonsense. And so she eventually died, because they had put a sign right by the outhouse, like, hey, if you hear screaming, don't help, don't give nobody food. Anybody else that helps will end up just like the family. So obviously nobody helped. And all you heard was just screaming for help. Eventually you don't hear nothing. And so once that happened, and then they literally buried a full family, just covered out the whole entire outhouse. Like that's like one of the pure examples that I witnessed, that I was like, I didn't know how to process that. I mean, at 8 years old, you don't know how to process much, but at that time I had seen so much that I didn't know how to process any of it. So I just took it as like, wow, that's messed up. Like, that's war. Like, that's all I could take it as. Later in life, it had showed me the darkest part of humanity that I never wanted to go back to. So now back to my grandparents' house. So we're there. The war's coming up there. My dad writes a letter to the church. The church tries to find us. At that time, like the Free Methodist Church, like everybody was just out everywhere. So they were trying to find like the bishops' families, or the pastors' families, anybody that they could rescue. So they located us, and they asked us to come up to Zaire, or the Congo, which is literally right across the bridge from where my grandparents were. It's about a day's walk away. So we gathered our stuff. We said goodbye to our grandparents. My mom said goodbye to her parents. She ain't seen them since. And we left. Like, we literally walked into the next country over, and that was the last that we seen of really anybody from home. And there, we stayed in Zaire for about a month. They were trying to process our paperwork. This is where I have two birthdays. I have my American birthday, which is August 7th, and I have my Rwandan birthday, which is August 6th, because somewhere in there was there was mix up as to what dates there were, and so it was paperwork. We were trying to get paperwork. We literally got smuggled out of the out of the country. And they found us. They were able to get a plane. They were able to somehow or another, money was collected for us to get to Kenya. To get to Kenya, we had to get on this little plane. We flew over there with the missionaries. It's
like a little prop plane or something?
It was literally like a two propeller joint. Like,
wow.
It was, and so it was like a good 6-hour flight. It was just like, thing about that and my military experience, I was like, okay, yeah, that's about similar. It was so uncomfortable, and like, it was, but it was survival. And so like we, and to be honest, like we were the lucky ones. Like,
right.
My family, I consider my family to be one of the fortunate families that didn't get to endure the rest of the war, because the people who unfortunately couldn't make it out, that stayed, that came like years later, their stories are way worse. And so like I see our story, I'm like, wow, like our story is crazy, but I hear this guy's story and I'm like, wow, this dude got chopped up and left for dead, and he is telling his story right now. I'm like, wow, it's like comparing, bad stories, but you're just like, wow, my story is way easier to listen to than that guy's, because his story is crazy incredible.
All this is crazy, man. I mean, it really is. Just to recap it.
Right.
You're 8 years old. You go through a genocide. Your father is in America, not even in Rwanda with you. So your mom's taking care of you and your family.
Mm-hmm.
People come to kill you, pray. They end up leaving, flee. All the stuff you've seen as an 8-year-old, dead bodies, chopped up, laying on the side of the road, all these kind of things. Traveling by foot, no food, no water, all the way across the country. Then go to another country for a month, and then somehow you miraculously fly
right.
to go back to visit your dad in America and stay. Like, and once you came to America, you haven't left.
No, my older brother went to visit back in 2011, and he was only gone for like 5 days, and we didn't tell nobody he was going. It was more of a hush mission. It was like, he literally he was like, I just feel like I want to go back, and he went back and visited and came back, and we didn't tell nobody that he left until he came back. I guess the day that he left, my parents were able to get a hold of somebody that could go to the airport and receive him, and then after that, like, he was able to visit a couple people, and then to like take some clothes and take some money, and that was it, and he just flew back.
Yeah, so explain that to me, because we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I've tried to take you to Rwanda. I know you want to go back at some point. You want to go back, but and Quinn and I were talking about before you came here, but just we'll set aside. We'll go back to like experiencing what you did as an 8-year-old,
right?
With the war and the death and all that kind of stuff. But just even being gone from your home country, especially the way you left it, and living here in America, and so much of who you are is over there, but you haven't been back yet,
right?
And like, so you combined all the pain and the memories and what you saw there when you left. It's not like you left and it was like, hey, a great feeling, we're going for a better experience in America,
right,
and to try this American dream or anything and be with Dad. We're escaping. And what is that? What was that like when you were younger? But even now, just that you are part of that country and that history, but you still haven't experienced it or like gone back for whatever it is, just not even necessarily closure, but just like what would that do for you? What are you missing by having not been back yet to where you were?
To be honest, man, like being able to reconnect with who you are, like, it's kind of like, I guess I can kind of consider that as being adopted, and you're always trying to figure out who's my real parents. Like, you have that longing to go back and actually to see where you come from, to actually understand. At the age of 8 years old, there's a lot of things that you mentally can't comprehend or that you don't know. But being an adult, you always want to go back and say, oh, that's who I am. And so for me, that I feel like there's a missing link in that, because I want to go back and see really where I come from. Because as an 8-year-old, again, you're seeing it from an 8-year-old's perspective, a childlike mind perspective. You're not seeing the whole picture. You're only seeing what you're looking at. Like, that's about it.
And it was a bad picture too, man.
Yeah, yeah. So like for me, the only thing I remember is the bad. There's no good. So I want to go back and actually balance out the bad with the good. Like that, to me, like that would be my, I guess, my bigger picture.
Your dream.
Yeah, like my big dream.
And we've talked about it before. It's not necessarily like an easy thing for you just to go back either.
Right.
And, I was like, man, I want Theo to come with me. I want Theo to come with me. But there's a lot more things to consider than just like, hey, it's all cool. I've got a passport. I was in the American military. There's not going to be any issues if I just go fly back to Rwanda and everything.
Right.
Kind of explain to everybody why that would be hard. It's not just the emotional aspect, but even like the intricacies of going back to a country that is, seems safe and free,
right,
but has a history of, why would that be a difficult thing?
Like, it is difficult because you, like, personally, like, for me, it's difficult. Well, emotionally it's difficult, right?
Mm-hmm.
But being through the military and doing all that, like, you get to also see another side of humanity, and you get to also, unfortunately, take part of in the other side of humanity, which is not the prettiest thing, which is going overseas and occupying somebody else's country and doing this and that. And you get to learn there's things that seem safe that aren't safe. And so for me, it's more the safety aspect of it, because when you go into a country that's been like that for so long, you know that there's somebody that's always looking for you. Because I mean, my parents still own land over there. My parents still own houses. My parents still have people that fly back and forth. In fact, like, my mom was accused of partaking in a genocide one way or another, and she had to testify to something. So like,
there or here?
Here. And this wasn't
where?
And this wasn't that long ago. It was probably like maybe about 3 or 4 years ago.
No way.
Yeah. So like, it's like somebody accused her, or somebody brought her name up, and she was doing this and that. It was actually one of the funny enough, it was actually one of the girls that we rescued.
Really?
Yeah. And she was the one that brought her name up as part of the accusation. Like, she was there killing people. She was doing this and that. And so when that came up, like, that was like another sign of there's still a lot of animosity.
Wow.
And there's still and that's why we didn't tell anybody that my that my brother was going back, because
protect him.
Yeah, it was more of a protecting thing. But yeah, so like, even
so there's like land there and people can just say anything.
Yeah, literally.
You show
like,
up in the country,
right.
It's like, hey, we want to talk to you, and you're like,
exactly. I mean, like there's a lot of people that's just been gone and disappeared. Like, right. there is people who have passed away, and you just kind of like, he wasn't that old. How did he pass away in his sleep? Mm-hmm. And you're just like, so you kind of learn to kind of read between the lines, and you're like, probably not a great idea to go back. So like, the only way that me and my parents can go back is to go through to like Burundi or something like that, and then have somebody come and meet us up at the border. But like, Rwanda has gotten so rich, apparently, like so much more. I mean, through the eyes of the gram, you're right.
Well, it's the fastest growing like economy,
right?
Kind of in
so like
in Africa,
I'm literally like at least a couple times a week I go and hashtag Rwanda just to kind of see what's popping, if you will. Like, and I'm like, wow, like they've gotten so advanced. They got technology like that's crazy, out of this world. In fact, I read somewhere that they were trying to make it like the next Wakanda, literally. Like they were building infrastructures.
Well, they're trying to get like 5G throughout the whole country there.
Yeah, like to literally make it look like Wakanda. I'm like, yo, like this is ridiculous.
And
like,
you could be the prince that returns and be the king, man.
It's challenge day. But
at the waterfall, right?
Yeah. But I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. Like I would have never thought in my wildest dream that Rwanda would look like America, or like it would look like one of the fastest growing places in the world. So like that in itself is pretty amazing to me. I mean, I would love to see that, but unfortunately, I understand the way that the government works isn't productive for me to be able to go over there and actually stay or visit. It's just kind of like, nah, I'm good. Yeah, so unfortunately, I got to travel through the eyes of the gram, Facebook, and pictures right now. But one day, I really honestly do want to go back. Hopefully, when it's better, because the same president that's been in place since the genocide is still the same president now.
Yeah, he just got elected to a third term.
Right.
They changed the.
So you can kind of see where that's kind of like, okay, all right, well, so like the political climate is making changes, but there's still the undertone of hatred. Yeah. Well, I think it still exists.
Well, it's humans, man.
Yeah, yeah.
It's humans. There's always gonna be some kind of evil. All right, well, let's bounce back to like kind of what happened when you came to America. Man, there's just so much, and you're 8 years old, coming to America, completely different place.
Right.
What did you know any English when you came? So no. You had no English.
No English.
You're coming to America as an 8-year-old after everything you witnessed and experienced there.
Right.
How long did it take you to get set up and go into like a school, or did you just have to learn English at home first? Man, I got so many questions,
right,
but let's just start there.
All right, so if anybody's listening to this and they hear my country twang, I actually learned how to speak English in Kentucky. So,
ooh, man.
Yeah, so I got that going for me. So
he's a hillbilly Rwanda. Can you believe that?
They do exist, I tell you what. It's just one of those things that, honestly, learning how to speak English was difficult, but it wasn't, because it's like all the kids on the college campus that we lived on, like they didn't speak Rwanda or French. So we're like, okay, we want to play with them. We gotta somewhat understand what they're saying. So a lot of the stuff we're saying without knowing what it means, but it will get them to do what they're supposed to be doing. And so it took us about a year. Yeah, it took us about a year to learn English. So from about 95, that's when we started going to school to actually get better. Once we learned the basics, then we went to school and started learning a little bit more advanced English. And in 96, that's when we were actually, I would say that's when we were placed in a class.
And were you on track with your age, or were you behind, or?
I'd like to think I was on track.
Okay.
Because it made sense for my age to graduate out of high school in 04. That's when I graduated.
So you were about
from high
18
school, so.
or 19?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so I was on track. So, but my mom is a teacher by trade. So having a mom that's a teacher and having a dad that's also a teacher and a pastor, you learn things quickly. You're forced to learn things quickly, and so like you literally, like we would have a lady that would come to the house for the first 9 months that we're in America, and literally just tutor us. But it was that hello, hi, basic bare bones English, and then we also had PBS. To be honest, like we learned
Sesame Street, baby.
Sesame Street, Barney, Reading Rainbow, Puzzle Place, and these are old shows for anybody who is probably under 30. You probably won't know what these are.
Yeah, you're an old man, dude.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm telling you, like, Reading Rainbow was like our saving grace. Like, we would watch it as a family. Like for us, like literally, like butterflies in the sky. Hey, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like it was literally like that was our family time. Barney was our family time. So yeah, learning how to speak English, watching those things that most American kids don't want to watch or they take for granted, like those educational things. It's like, to me, that is fundamental. Like if you didn't have Barney growing up, if you didn't have reading, like you missed out. Like there's probably why certain vocabulary is in dictionaries now that shouldn't be.
Man, I just imagine it's not being like super hard, and correct me if I'm wrong, for you guys to like learn or work hard or do things based on your experiences and how grateful you might have been to be alive or to be
but see,
over here or like.
That's the craziest thing, Nick. Like it's from the readings that I've done, it's like your brain always wants to go back to the natural state of safety, of comfort, of just everything. So like when you experience something traumatic, your brain is always trying to go back to safety, trying to go back to comfort. So you tend to get comfortable really easily. You tend to get because you don't want to re-experience that. So it's like we get to America, we're so busy trying to learn and trying to become like Americanized, if you will, that somewhere along the way we or at least for me, like I felt like I lost a little bit of that edge where I should have been grateful. You know, it's like it doesn't, you know, for a kid it doesn't start, you know, it doesn't take long for a kid to start complaining about they don't have enough toys.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? So like it's like literally because like, you know, all the toys that we got were, you know, hand-me-downs, but like, you know, you're kind of like trying to look at this, you know, Batman toy that's like missing all the little components that come with it. It's like, oh, okay, but you like still want it, but you're like, well,
you know, there's better.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, there's better, but you also understand that you don't got the money to go out and buy toys like that. So it was, you know, it was one of those things that looking back now, I'm like, wow, it's like I really should have kept a humble spirit growing up, because somewhere I got complacent, somewhere I got comfortable, because I wasn't doing that great in school, like high school wise. Like I didn't, like my parents were just happy I graduated. like literally, like my parents were just like, thank God, even with a, you know, a D- or a C-, like you just graduated, just graduate. And like, you know, my parents are big on education, so it's like, you know, my sister does well, my older brother did well. Shoot, even my younger brother, I was the one, you know, I had that middle child syndrome, so like I was the one that's like the hard-headed kid, like just barely just.
Yeah, I got one of those.
Yeah, just barely getting by. But now looking back, I really wish I would have done better at that. Would have been more grateful at being in the positions that I was in. But yeah, my American experience has been pretty crazy. I'm just so intrigued by like the emotional health of your family and what you went through, because you come from experiencing that, and there's trauma, right? Mental trauma, emotional trauma, and then you're trying to live this life in America, and your family has went through something that is completely crazy. Your dad wasn't even necessarily part of it, so you know his wife and kids went through all this, right, but he wasn't there with them to experience it. I can't even imagine what that was like for him, finding out everything you went through, right? And you know how much you talk about it, how much, like, probably not necessarily going through counseling or work. You're like, how did you get through all that stuff? And then you're in a country that you're not used to, and all these other kids, man, they didn't experience anything like that. Right. I mean, it's honestly gotten easier to talk about over time, because when like my dad's side of the story is pretty crazy. It's actually like it's intense, it's insane, because his over here in college, poor, doesn't really have any money, and he gets a call from the missionaries like, hey, we have your family, are you ready to, do you have enough money to bring them over? Without hesitation, he's like, yeah, I got money to bring him over. He didn't have a dime, right? And yeah. So and not to get crazy super churchy or super religious or super Christian-y, if you will. Like, prayer changes lives, man. Like, for real, like, prayer changes your situation. Like, he fasted and prayed for weeks, like, to the point where the people on the college campus, like, they were getting concerned because he was losing weight at a rapid rate. Because he was worried, he was praying. And how he got the funds for us to get over here was crazy, because it's like, he just prayed, and then churches started hearing about, what's going on in Rwanda, what's going on with his family, and they started collecting love offerings. Like, it was like, it was gonna take I think $8,000 to get us over here from Kenya. $8,000 was collected probably within a 3-week time frame. Like, because it was literally like like churches would hear about it, collect an offering, send it, and he was like, I don't know what to do with this money. I don't like. He was like, just hold on to it until I need it. Yeah. and so finally, like, you know, the money got put together. They sent it to the missionaries. We, you know, they bought plane tickets and, you know, and we got over here. But I didn't actually hear his story or his side of the story, you know, because his side of the story is different than somebody else, like a third party watching him go through it.
Right.
And I heard it 2 weeks ago, and he made me cry, bro. Like, I was like, wow. Whoa, like, you know, because when you think of your dad or your mom, like you don't really ever see him in any other light other than just your parents. But like hearing their humanity side, hearing their human side, you're just like, my goodness gracious, like, wow, my parents are human. And so like it was incredible to hear, and just really honestly understanding the power of prayer, man. Like, yo, prayer changes things, man, like to the T. And like, and even when it comes down to the emotional health, like I've had to go through counseling for PTSD through the military, right? But it's crazy because I'm like, okay, well, how am I going through counseling for this? But I never really went to counseling for everything else that I experienced as a kid. But you're just like, okay, well, everything's interconnected. Like things play a huge role. Like your childhood stories play a huge role in your adulthood. And so, you know, in counseling session, I'll bring that up too. You know, because I just wanted to get that mental clarity, that mental like connection of, okay, this is affecting, you know, I'm not just experiencing PTSD from combat. I'm experiencing double PTSD from 2 combat zones that I was a part of, and like actually learning that, I was like, okay, so that's why I'm having nightmares, but they're not making any sense because I'm like, I didn't experience any of that, but it's like 2 nightmares put together. And so, and the last 5 years, I would say, the last 5 years I've been going to counseling at least once a month. Yeah, at least once a month. And, you know, and growing up, once we got to America, we literally traveled, like my dad would get asked to speak at all the churches that gave money. So like, we would hear the story over and over, retell the story almost every Sunday. Like our story got retold. So like you get used to talking about it, and you get used to hearing about it. Yeah. And you know, and it doesn't become something, like it becomes part of you. Like, I mean, it's already part of you, but you really get to experience it over and over and over again for so long. You're just kind of like, yeah, you know, it's a story. Yeah, so like that's kind of how like I feel like our family's been able to go through it. Like there's other unfortunate incidences that has happened to other families where like they get here and they turn into alcoholics because it's like the only way to deal with the pain, or the only way to deal with losing everything you've ever had, everything you've ever known, is, you know, for them their answer was alcohol, drugs. And so you're just like, wow, Theo, you really like got the better end of the deal, because it's like, not only did you get to share your story and hopefully impact lives, like you got to heal every time you told a story. So like so for me, that's kind of what I feel like counseling has helped, but that was also helpful.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm interested how kind of like race plays into your life as well, being over here in America. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
It's because, you know, just the way you look, you know, nobody's gonna be like, hey, it's
and
sound he's Rwandan or he's African. So, but just what that's like for you, even I want to know what it was like for you kind of growing up, but even now here in Savannah,
right? You
know, what you see and what you feel and what you hear of, you know, you come over, people might look at you like, oh, you're African American, you're black here in America, and we expect you to kind of be like this, either at school or in, you know, military job, wherever it is. Right. This is kind of like what we're assuming you're going to be like.
Yeah.
Or maybe you think you should be like that now, but hey, dude, I'm from Rwanda, and I'm kind of, you know, it's different for me, man.
It's crazy because, like, growing up, you know, I grew up in rural Kentucky, Breathitt County. Van Cleve was literally like one stoplight town, one post office. Like, you blink, you miss it. Van Cleve, Kentucky, like that's where the college campus is. So there's no black people anywhere near that, except for any people that come from like Papua New Guinea or Kenya to like learn at that college. And so we didn't really see your typical African Americans until like later on, like probably. So we got there in '94, lived there until about 2001. So like until maybe 2000, like we really didn't get to experience the whole African American culture at all. Like even in music, like we like at the college campus, like we weren't allowed to listen to rap, or like we weren't allowed to like listen to really anything except for Christian music. So like, you know, growing up like that, you kind of tend to be sheltered. And then in 2000, late 2000, we came to visit Dayton, Ohio, where you know it was a huge Rwandan community, and we get there and we get to see other Rwandan kids. The first time we've ever seen other Rwandan kids in 10 years, and we're like, they're different because they came straight from Rwanda to the Black American life culture. So like they're into hip hop, they're dressed different. I mean, like they're all G'd out, if you will. Like in 2000, that was like the era of DMX, the era of like, you know,
Rough Rider.
Yeah, Rough Riders, hip hop. Like they're all hip hopped out, and we're just like wearing our Wrangler jeans and our you know, our Everlast shoes, and we're just kind of like, oh. So this is the Black American culture life. Like we didn't get it. Like, I mean, shoot, they're sagging their pants and they're like, you know, like they're using like, you know, I guess hip hop slang. Yo, what's up? Like, hey, how you doing?
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's a nice to meet you, man. You know, it's like, what's going on? It's like, all right, okay, I'm different. I'm not like the rest of you guys. So it was like a culture shock meeting them and seeing them act like the way they were acting. But then like me and my brother would look at them and laugh. But then we got to a point where we're like, yo, we didn't have the same experiences they did. They had to blend in. Like we had to blend in. Mm-hmm. That's why we're dressed like this. That's why they're dressed like that. And so that was the first time I've actually ever encountered the two different Rwandan experience in America, our experience and their experience, and then when we moved to Ohio in 2001, shortly after, then I got to really experience the Black American culture, which was me going to school as a sophomore. In 2001, like I didn't fit in, right? So the only group I was able to fit in with was the foreign kids, because I mean that's really honestly what it was. So I was with the foreign exchange students, you know, all the Asian dudes that were from like Korea, Japan, like, you know, all the break dancers, like the kids from like Guatemala, the kids whose parents were like just transferred over from, because we lived over there by Wright Pat Air Force Base. So like really anybody foreign, that's who I hung out with, because we connected on a different level. And so I wasn't black enough to be part of the black people. I wasn't white enough to be part of the white people. I was just foreign. And so I literally kind of stuck to that whole group. Like that was my clique. So like where you seen like a sprinkle of like Mexican kids, Asian kids, and one black kid, that's me, and like you know a couple other just like mixed kids like that didn't really fit in, you know, anywhere else. So like I was pretty much like a loner going through high school. Like my first year in a public school setting, it was kind of just me. I didn't really play sports. My brother ran track and did soccer. I tried to play soccer, but I injured myself during tryouts, so there was that. I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm not gonna play soccer. I guess I'll play football. And that didn't happen. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll play basketball. That didn't happen. Like I was literally like trying to find my own identity, trying to fit in. Like the only sport I ended up playing was volleyball, and that was by default.
Dude, this is just blowing my mind, man.
And that was by default because our high school didn't have a volleyball team, so they had like a little intramural team going. And I was like, I'm a senior, I gotta play some sort of sport. Like volleyball, they're just taking anybody. So I was just, you know, I was on the squad, I was like one of the three other seniors. So automatically I was varsity.
So congratulations.
Thank you. No big deal. I also got lettered. So, because I was a senior by default, I got a letter. To put on my, jacket. I didn't buy a Letterman jacket, but I have it. It's still at the house. So I was like, wow. And my brother got so mad. He was like, yo, how do I play 2 sports and you only play 1 and you get lettered and I didn't get lettered? I was like, God works miracles, man. Like,
I don't know if I've ever met a Rwandan African-American volleyball player.
Yeah, that was me. That was me.
You're the one.
Me. I still hold the title.
You're the one, man.
Yeah, for the most minutes sat on the bench. So, but yeah, like that was just my experience, like coming to America, and starting to see really what race divides that there are. Like I didn't know. Like I just thought everybody interacted because, coming from Rwanda where everybody who was the same color hated each other and killed each other, I was like, oh, okay, well, at least we're different here, like significantly different, and we can either tolerate each other. No, that's not the case. Like I didn't know what the American history was with, Black American culture. Like I didn't know what the history was until literally like I'm still learning what a history is. Because it's one of those things that you have to understand and you have to kind of get in a mindset of really trying to understand. But like racism for me never was a hindrance. Like, did I experience racism? I think so. But I never saw it as racism. I just saw it as ignorance. Like I like you can't hate me if you don't know me. Like you get to know me, you're gonna be like blown away and you're gonna like me. Like like there's no way you cannot not like me. And so to me I was like racism. I was like, no, you just don't know me well enough to like me. So I just always saw that as just ignorance and never really seen it as racism. We hate what we don't understand and what we fear. And I'm like, well, I'll give you a chance to understand me. I'm not a threatening person. So that's why I was always confused. I was like, so are you like legitimately being racist right now, or are you just being ignorant? Like, which one are you? So I never really to me, I never saw them as racist, but maybe they were, but I never really saw them as that.
Yeah.
Because I never really saw racism in that, like just in that light. Now, growing up, I can look back and say, oh, okay, yeah, that was a racist moment. Like there was a time that me and my brother went to a church camp in Illinois, and we went to go visit a buddy of ours' house, and we were walking in a neighborhood. This little town in Illinois has not seen, at that time, probably not seen any black people for like ever. So like we were like the anomaly, and we're walking down the street, and it wasn't that far. It was literally like maybe like a 5-minute walk, and we see a cop pull up, and it's like, hey, where you guys going? We're like, yeah, we're going to my friend Jeremy's house. It was like, oh, okay. Are you guys from here? We're like, no, because we still lived in Kentucky, so we were just there visiting. And he's like, okay, why don't I take you guys over there? So we hopped in his cruiser. He drove us down the street. And we got there. We didn't think nothing of it. And then the people who were staying with, we told them that we got picked up by a cop. They were furious. We were like, wait, was that a racist moment? Like we were still trying to figure out, like, wait, was he being racist? Oh my gosh, he was being racist. But we're like, we didn't know. Like we really honestly didn't know if somebody called the cops or if that was like an intentional racism. But we were like, oh, okay. Like even up to now, we're just kind of like, we were just happy we got a ride and we didn't have to walk. To be honest, we're just like, oh, thanks. Like that guy was really nice. He was really chill. He was really cool. We had a conversation about where we're from and what we're doing there. And yeah, he seemed like a nice guy. So like we never really took it as that was racist. We're just, oh, hey, appreciate the ride, man. Like good looking out. So yeah.
Gotcha.
So like that's just been my whole experience with like the race divide, race culture.
Yeah. Yeah, race. That's why race is such a big deal to me, and having conversations about it here because of what I've experienced in Rwanda and
right.
And having those conversations of like, here's 2 tribes of people that even though there's unrest, a lot of the unrest is caused by a third party.
Right.
It originated from Belgium, white Belgians who came over and said, you're better than them.
Right. Yeah.
And then from there on out, okay, once you say someone's better than somebody else,
then
they get, more political power, they get more land, more money, whatever it is, then that's where stuff starts, going downhill.
But Nick, that's the craziest thing though. Like, I didn't know that until recently. Like, I didn't, like, literally until I had to sit myself down and do my own research on my country. Like, being an 8-year-old, you don't study.
You're not being taught that.
Yeah, you're not being taught that. You're not studying Rwandan history. Like, there really wasn't a history class. Like, hey, years ago before Rwanda gained its independence, whatever this happened.
That's interesting.
I didn't even know that the president had been in power since my parents were kids. I was like,
forever.
Yeah, forever. I was like, wait, he was a dictator? Oh my gosh, I was part of a dictatorship? I had no idea that was I just thought he was a president for like the longest time. Yeah. I was like, never really thought twice about it. You don't get into politics as a kid. And so and now looking back, you're like, oh wow, oh my goodness. So that did happen. So in the 60s, the Hutus and Tutsis, the Tutsis got banished from Rwanda. Oh my gosh. So they were ostracized, and there was another genocide before that, like where people got killed and sent out of the country. So I was like, wait, so this is a trend. I was like, this is history repeating itself because people haven't learned. And then I get to America, and I'm still trying to learn. There's so many cultures in America. I'm still trying to learn two different types of history because there's the Black American history and there's the American said history that you get taught in school, which is complete crazy because it's like you're like, wait, when did that happen? Why does it seem like there's a gap missing somewhere? And so I'm still trying to learn those two histories. So I'm like, wow, okay, now I understand why certain things are the way they are. Now I understand why certain people, see things of the way that they see it, because that's been experienced. Like me, you can't say. I guess I can't call anybody racist. Like I just choose to call it ignorance, because honestly, it's. I had to sit myself down once again and look up the term racist. Like, somebody who is a racist is somebody who is proud of their race. That's what the IST stands for. So if you are the only time IST is negative is after race. So you play a piano, you're a pianist. You you work on teeth, you're a dentist. You do whatever else, you're an artist, but then put ist behind race, and then it becomes negative. So why I was like, wait, the English language, somebody needs to really
English language is messed up. That's really interesting though.
Change it,
because it also, as soon as somebody says the word racist, like, conversation's over.
Right, conversation's over, and anything you say after that point is negative.
Right.
It's like, wait, no, but why is that? So like when somebody says, okay, well, racist, no, he's not a racist. He's an ignorant person who doesn't know anything about the culture that he hates. Because when you fear and are not knowledgeable on something, you will hate it. I hate math. I really hate math because I don't understand it, and it's always been the hardest subject, like, growing up. So I literally just like, ugh, I can't stand math.
Yeah.
But so I was like, okay, well, in order for me to get to like math, I have to understand it, get to know it. I still know how to count, but I'm just like, world problems, not my problem, not doing it. But it was just like, that's just the whole meaning of the ist. That's just the whole meaning for racist for me. Like, I can't call anybody racist, because if they're truly proud of their race, yeah, then they are racist. They're not being negative by that. But when it's hate, that's ignorance. So
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
To me, there's so many lessons from Rwanda. Like, when I go over there, I mean, we haven't even touched on like the level of forgiveness, healing workshops. Genocide perpetrators that they took them to prison, but prisons are too full. And they have to have like community courts where they confess everything, and then they ultimately, some of these killers got to go back and live in their communities.
Right.
With the same widows who, they were part of raping and killing their other family members, and they're living in the same neighborhoods.
Wow.
Which is insane. It's absolutely insane. You can't wrap your mind around it here in America based on like kind of how our justice system and criminal, all that kind of stuff plays out. But going back to tribal issues and race, Hutus and Tutsis are going to church together.
Right.
They're intermarrying. They're going to school together, all leading up to the genocide.
Right.
So it's not like there's this buildup where everyone is just separated and we're apart from each other. We're doing life together. We're friends. Maybe even be family members.
Right.
So here you go. You can be sitting in church with somebody the Sunday before who's completely, in a different tribe, and that's not a big deal. But then all of a sudden
now
it is, and now that same church is being used to kill one of those groups of people and not safe anymore. And, the conversations we have when we do some of our group stuff over here, talking about race and reconciliation and stuff, it's like, oh, well, that could never happen here in America. Maybe there won't be a genocide in America, but the way people treat race and ethnicity and people that are different than them and how they can't have a conversation and talk honestly about it, it's a little scary.
Yeah.
Because we just say we're racist, or no, that system's not set up to hurt minorities. That can't be, slavery's out. There's no issue anymore. But there's mass incarceration.
Right.
There's way more black people going to prison, and there's certain systems that are set up that I think if you don't open your eyes or have conversations about it, you don't know how it's affecting people and what's really going on.
When you really like genocide doesn't, like, to me, genocide, like the word genocide means a mass killing of over X amount of people.
Right.
But really, when you look at it, it's like there also could be like a deal genocide. There could be a systemic genocide. The ideal genocide is every idea of healing that dies every day that people don't get to experience because people shoot it down. They're like there's been so many ideas and so many dreams killed by the people who don't want to make it happen because it's too difficult. Like talking about race is difficult, but when you don't talk about it, it becomes even harder. It's like when you don't communicate about something. That's the same thing as in a marriage. It's like if you don't communicate about something, that topic becomes harder and harder as time goes by. So like race is like one of the things in America that when it's addressed, I feel like a lot of times it kind of gets skimmed over because it gets to a point where it's uncomfortable, and then people stop.
Then you stop.
Yeah, and then you're like, I can't go past that point because that's a little too deep. That's a little too real. Because once you learn something, knowledge is responsibility. Unfortunately, like once you learn something, you're forced to change. Like if you were eating something, and I'll use this example. Okay, you're a smoker on a pack of cigarettes, because I used to work at a gas station. I'll sit there and read the whole entire labels. All right, causes cancer and death. But people come and buy it every day with a warning label up front. Not once did I ever see somebody turn the thing around and actually read any of the ingredients that's in there. Because it's a whole lot easier to get high of the nicotine than it is to take the responsibility and actually know what you're smoking. Because once you know what you're smoking and you don't change it, now you're the idiot. Now you look like a fool. Now you're the fool that's going around saying, I am freely giving myself cancer. I mean, you are anyway because you're smoking. But you don't want to change your way because you refuse to. So once you know something, you are given the responsibility to change. If you don't change, then you're the fool. Nobody wants to be the fool. I'd rather not know something and have knowledge of it that exists, kind of like what we're talking about trafficking. It's local, it's here.
Yeah.
But it's a whole lot easier to say it's here and refuse to believe that it's really here. Because it's like, yeah, man, I can't believe what's going on in California. No, it's right down the street. No, not in Savannah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of the point of doing this whole thing, is just like, man, if Quinn sees you walking down the street, okay, it's cool. It's just, black dude walking down the street who, maybe we'll see him or talk sometime or something like that. And and you got no idea what this guy's story is and
Right.
how insane it is. And same with Quinn too. You know, it goes both ways.
Right.
It's just like
100%.
you think something of him, but man, you don't know what he has been struggling with and like how he's been neglected in his life and how that's caused him to be who he is and struggle with. And, you know, to push, you made the line of like that uncomfortable. We
Right.
get to the point where it's uncomfortable, and then because if we know something too much,
now
we feel guilty about it or have to do something
Right,
about
exactly,
it. And that's the point of like, we want somebody else to take care of it.
Right.
Instead of like, you know, how can I engage in that in just a personal way?
Right.
How can I find out what you're going through racially? Quinn, how can I find out about what you were struggling with sometime when we talk about it? You know,
Right.
it's just, go ahead, man. You're going to say something?
Oh, no. You're
Okay,
good.
you're good. Sorry, I just brought you into that
No,
analogy
like,
there for a second.
No, for real. Like I really honestly do think it's important though to be able to go past that pain point and actually start owning up and taking responsibility. I get it. Like I might not have caused X, Y, and Z pain. I might not have done that to somebody, but now I know of their pain. It is my responsibility because I know now helping them move forward with that pain. But because we also have our own pains and we haven't dealt with them properly, we don't want to take on any more pain, anybody else's pain. It's like, ooh, you know what? I really don't want to know about your past, because if I know about your past, I'm gonna be sitting here talking about it for whatever. I got my own stuff I got going on. Like I really don't. But it's good to know that you recovered though. It's good to know that you're getting help.
We're all hurt. You know,
Yeah.
everyone's hurt in a way. But a lot of times the problem is, and I heard this line one time, but hurt people end up hurting other people.
Oh, 100%.
But if you know how you're hurt and realizing you're trying to do something about it, you know, hurt people can actually help other hurting people,
Right.
as opposed to hurting them.
Right. Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's like, if I could break it down in the biggest way, is that's why we hurt people, because we're hurt in some way.
Right. We're hurt in some way, and we neglect other people. So neglect is painful. It's hurtful. Like it's rejection at its like, I want to say highest point to me, because it's like when you neglect something, you have knowledge of it, but you choose to neglect it. Mm-hmm. It's like I have a bunch of homework and paperwork that I got to do, and I'd rather do something else though. So I'm mentally aware that this pain exists, but I choose to neglect it because. So it's not that I don't even want to know that it exists. I know it exists. So that's why like neglect and rejection are like two close cousins, because it's like if I reject you, I don't even know anything about you. But if I neglect you, is I know, at least to me, this is what it means. I know about you, but I choose not to engage with you. But rejection is like, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Like you don't even want to know nothing of it. Like just get away from me. It's just like, nah. But when I'm neglecting something, it's there. I'm aware that it exists. It's in my peripheral, but it's just like I'd rather look at that camera versus looking at the mic, because whatever.
Yeah.
Like to me, that's what neglect is. And so when you say the neglected, it is so painful, because it's like you see them, but you see that say in a homeless nature, it's like you see that they're homeless, you see that they're hurting, you see that they're hungry, but you're just like, I don't got time. So I'm just gonna.
Or what impact is it gonna be?
or what impact is it gonna be? Or I know Jerry's gonna be back here tomorrow begging for money.
Yep.
So you choose to just neglect that and just keep it going.
Yeah, or someone else will take care of it.
Right.
They know where
Right.
the homeless shelter is. They know where
Exactly.
to get food.
Exactly.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Well, I want to make sure we cover just a couple quick things before our time wraps up, because I could talk to you all day. But just I'm interested in kind of the military aspect of it.
Okay.
I don't have to go into like everything you've ever done or anything like that, but just kind of why you chose to go the military route, maybe what it taught you or helped you or hurt you with as far as like your experience
Right.
in Rwanda, and then kind of what it did for you here in America. Was any part of what you went through part of the reason you went in the military, or was it just kind of explain that?
It was, looking back, it was a little self-serving, to be honest, because it was, being 8 years old, you're not able to do anything. Like you can't protect the ones you love. You can't do nothing for nobody. So for me to join the military was more of like, I wanted to do something about that.
Yeah. What branch were you into? Where'd you enlist in?
So I was in the Marine Corps, and then I also went into the Army. And the reason why I went to the Marine Corps, one, I was like, okay, I love the uniforms, great uniforms. The commercials are awesome. Like, dress blues, I want them.
And you look good in them, by the way. I've seen pictures.
Thank you. I tried. I think anybody, you put dress blues on anybody, is like they automatically become like, they go from a 5 to a 20. And so I was like, come on. And so, and I knew that the Marine Corps was like the hardest branch to get into. I knew that, it was, from the history books that I read of, of the Marine Corps, I was like, you know what, they're, war fighters. I want to go to war. I want to fight. I want to be in the front lines. I want to be infantry. I want to jump out of planes and do all that crazy stuff. And so I did. I joined.
Was it because you were helpless and where you were before?
Yeah, like it was just more of a, like that kid that got bullied in school, and then he grows up and is like, I want to do something about it. Mm-hmm. And so like that's kind of how I felt. Like I never got a chance to protect my country. I never got a chance to protect my friends. I never got a chance to protect my own family. Mm. So now I'm given the chance. I want to do that because that was in 2006. So 9/11 had already happened and all that was going on, like the war on terrorism. So I joined the Marine Corps May of 2006, and then did a couple deployments with the Marine Corps, and then got out in 2010, and then I joined the Army, and then I got out of the Army in 2016. But so yeah, like the military for me was more of that consolation prize. Like, okay, hey, you never got a chance to actually protect somebody. Go ahead and go to another country that's hurting, that's getting vandalized by some other bad people, and you get to do something about that. But I learned more about myself while I was in the military that, I was like, that's not really, I was like, did I really do that for the right reasons? I was like, like you start questioning your own motives the older you get. You're like, wait, did I really do that for the right reasons? But to me, at that time, that was my reason. And then, being in the military, you get to travel and you get to see other countries, and you get to see how, other countries live. And you're just like, wow, that, like, it hit too close to home. Mm. Like there were days like I was in Afghanistan, and I was like, wow, like certain smells like were so like automatic. I was like, it would bring back memories, and it was just like, wow, I was like, I can't believe, like, I would see like an 8-year-old and see myself. Mm. Like it was like that transparency of like, you're on patrol, you see a hungry kid, you see a starving kid, just like, that's lost, his whole entire family, but he's 8 years old and he's got to run the house. And you look at him, maybe the other people might have looked at him as, oh, he's just an Afghani kid. I was like, wow, that's you, Theo. That's you. Like, to me, that was like, and like I would carry like extra candy and stuff, like just to give to kids, because I was so like, my heart was like for the kids, man, because I was like, you don't deserve this. Like, you didn't ask for this. Like, but in retrospect, I was trying to heal my inner child, because like that's who went through it. Older Theo didn't go through the war. Mm-hmm. Young Theo did. So like, every chance I got, I would try to play with the kids. I would get toys for the kids. I would like every chance I got. It wasn't many chances, but the little that I did get, like, that was, take pictures with the kids. Like, I don't know, like as much little good things I could do for the kids. Because I remember whenever we were in Rwanda and we would see American soldiers, or we'll see like the French soldiers, like we were just like, oh my gosh, there's like foreign soldiers, like like the UN is here, right? And like we like kind of like look at them like they were the big giants. And at some point I was like, wow, that's me. I'm that giant that I used to see. So I was like, and I remember how safe, maybe it was a false sense of safety, but like how safe I'd feel anytime I would see like the UN helmets. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if it was like that branding trigger, like, oh, UN safety, okay, cool. Yeah. But like we'll see him and we just get that sense of relief, like, wow, okay, wow, like the UN is here. So like I wanted to give that same feeling to any kid that was going through a hard time in Afghanistan, or like some kid that would look and be like, wow, the American troops are here, I'm safe.
Dude, how cool is that to have somebody who survived the Rwandan genocide come over here and then serve in our Marines and protect our country after what he experienced over there. I mean, it's just insane, man.
It's amazing for sure.
It's crazy.
For sure.
Did you feel equal in the military based on like race or ethnicity, or was it?
Because of just the way that I looked at race, for me, it's you because in the Marine Corps, everybody gets treated the same. Everybody hates you regardless. your chain of command hates you regardless.
Everybody's racist.
Yeah. Everybody just like yeah, whatever. And so like you get what you work for. In the military, like at least for me, in my viewpoint, you don't get promoted just because you're cute. Like you get promoted because you're a hard worker. Like I wasn't promoted that much because I sucked. I was a terrible Marine. Like I was not the fastest. I wasn't like the most athletic. I wasn't all that. And so like to me, I was just like, oh, I'm just glad to be on the bench. I'm just glad to just play for the team, bro. Like I'm just glad I'm just glad to be here. But like the guys who excelled were like those guys who literally put a lot of effort into it. And for me, like my viewpoint of joining the Marine Corps was completely different than maybe most guys. Most guys had family members, like their dad and grandfather were former Marines, and they fought in World War II and Vietnam, and they were like, yeah, I want to be just like my dad. Like for me, I was the first family member in the military, so I had no previous knowledge of the military. So like my whole thing was, I'm just glad to be wearing the uniform, bro. Like I'm just here so I don't get fired. And that honestly translated because I didn't really have a huge goal of like advancing. I was like, promotion, what's that? Like I really didn't know much about the military before. I just wanted to just wear dress blues, and I did. and so it's not that I didn't have a work ethic, because when you gave me a task, I did it to the best of my ability. But it's just like my future vision wasn't really there until later on. Whenever I joined the Army, I was like, okay, I know enough about the military because I had been in the Marine Corps for 4 years. Now I know enough about the military now that I got a family of my own. I got to work hard. I got to, so like at that point, I started to kind of see more of okay, there might is a race divide somewhere, because it's like you look at it, it's like it was a good old boy system. It was like kind of like, okay, so certain people are getting promoted and certain people are not. Why is that? This person has this much time in grade, and they got a whole entire record of just great things, amazing things. But this dude just literally just showed up and he's getting promoted. Like his record ain't even that clean. I was like, so you kind of start to see a little bit of favoritism in it. But when you honestly look down deep, it's you see what you want to see, unfortunately, and you see, but what's presented, you also see. You're also like, okay, well, that guy's white. He's getting promoted faster than that guy. They're both in the same job. This guy's actually more athletic than he is. This guy's actually like got more work experience than he does. Oh, but you're saying because he was late to formation once, that this guy wasn't. Okay, come on. Like now you're just picking and choosing. So like you kind of start to see that a lot.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's just want to kind of start wrapping down, but like where you are at now. So you're married,
right?
American woman.
Yeah.
American woman. So,
and that's a different beast in itself.
I don't even know where to attack that right now. That's a whole other thing. But just like there's a lot of different experiences that you've been through, that she's been through.
Right.
People just walk, again, see the both of you and be like, oh, there's two black people, and
it's like, oh, okay,
happily ever after.
Right.
But a lot of different life experiences there.
It's definitely been a crazy ride, man. I've been married for 10 years. I got married in 2009, and just the difference in culture differences, and just past history experiences, just understanding. It's like we literally had to have so many come to Jesus moments, because it's like, listen, I was like, this is what my mindset is. Like I'm the immigrant. Like, so like my mindset is work, like, provide. Like, and her thing is, hey, quality time, this and that. I was like, I'm not used to that.
Yeah.
I'm used to literally just work. And like, I'm used to just a completely different, even just my parents, like just the way I was raised, I was raised in a fully running household. So my understanding of marriage is seeing it from their perspective and their point of view, and like in a biblical point of view. But it's like you get more of the culture than you get more of the biblical. So like it wasn't a bad experience; it was a great experience. And so it's like, oh, okay, well, my mom was not an American, my dad wasn't American, so I'm not gonna have the same experience because I married the same, or I married, an American woman. So yeah, so like that's been difficult from time to time to adjust to, but like, and then you throw in just the difficulty of marriage as a whole. It's just been like just a cluster. But we're going through counseling, talking about it, just like honestly, like marriage counseling helps because you get to see two different perspectives, and you get to once you're willing to understand it, then you make it work.
Yeah, you're working on it, man.
Yeah. So like, so everything's always a work in progress. So yeah.
That's good, man.
And then, like you said, I'm a barber now. So
yeah, work. Let's talk about your work, man.
So got out of the military in 2016, and then went to barbering school and got my license. Work here locally in town. So that's been amazing. Got to meet, I get to meet a lot of different people. Got to give you a haircut. I still got the money that you paid, that $100 money that you got. I literally keep that in a Ziploc bag.
And I paid you with Rwandan money.
Yeah. It was actually a couple of weeks after you came back from Rwanda, so like that was pretty awesome.
And it was probably only like $2 or something.
Probably was, but it was it was the biggest paycheck I've ever got, because that to me, because like I went home and showed my parents almost cried, because it was like, we ain't seen that.
Yeah.
We ain't seen that in 20 some odd years. And so so like that was amazing, like to be able to help people, to honestly, like, to me, cutting hair is more than just a haircut. There's just so much more to it. Like, you get to transform somebody's day, you get to transform somebody's life. Like, I get so many people that come in, they're not feeling their best, they get a haircut, they walk out somebody new. Like, it's amazing to see. For me, it's that instant gratification thing. It's like, wow, it's like you got a chance to impact somebody's life, somebody's whole day.
And you're doing a lot of different kind of people's hair too.
Yeah,
man. It's not just like you're just not in the hood doing.
Yeah, so I'm literally doing like kids, women, I'm black, white, whatever. But it's not even the haircut, but the conversations that I get to have with people in my chair. Like, those are amazing. Like, I learn so much on a daily basis. Like, and honestly, that's why I created that podcast, Beyond the Clippers, because I wanted people to tell their story, kind of like what you're doing. Mm-hmm. But like, I wanted my clients to be able to have a platform to share their stories, because I'm like, does anybody else know this story?
Right.
No, you're just I was like, why don't you tell it? I just never thought anybody else would want to hear it. I was like, that's an amazing story. You should be telling it. I never really got a chance. And where do I start? I was like, you know what? That's it. I'm creating a podcast. So I was like, so I've really had a couple of my clients on my podcast, and yeah, so like, it's like they've got a chance to share their stories. So
he's the only person that I've let cut my hair in probably the past 10 or 12 years. I do my own.
Yeah, I do my own as well.
So I mean,
that's cool.
I'm only letting a Rwandan touch my hair. Yeah. So that was, and he did a good job. But it's like, man, I don't let anybody else touch it, and awesome. He's the one that I trust. And yeah, so let's talk about how people can kind of hit you up, just like where, if they want to get a hair, because you're good, man. I mean, I'm not gonna just blow sunshine up your.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, the shop, that's New Impressions in Pooler, Georgia. If you're in the area, come and see me. I go by the Smiling Barber, Theo the Smiling Barber. If you're on Instagram, it's Theo_the Smiling Barber.
Yeah, we'll put that up on the screen for sure.
Please do. So, and the crazy thing about that is, the reason why I went with the whole Smiling Barber aspect of it is everything that I've been through in life has somebody would be like, wow, you should be depressed, like completely just depressed. And I'm just like, no, I refuse to. Like, for me, it's naturally to just smile, like, because when you smile, like, you force your body to be okay, you force your mind and your body to literally take a different perspective of life. So, like, to me, that's why I go by the Smiling Barber, because I was like, I refuse for somebody to walk in and for me to be selfish enough to let my day affect their day, or vice versa. Like, when you come in and see me, I don't want you to leave feeling depressed. Like, I'd rather you leave with a messed up haircut and a great attitude, than which you won't leave with a messed up haircut, but like, I would rather that happen than you leave down and depressed. So hey, hashtag the Smiling Barber. Like, that's been my little life story for like the last couple of years that I've been cutting hair professionally. So yeah, that's my Smiling Barber story, and I'm sticking to it.
I like it. It's kind of, we always in the podcast and asking kind of question about what people can do, even like you personally.
Right.
What can you do? What do you want to do? And you've shared a lot of ways that you've felt neglect or been neglected or been through horrible situations and had a chance to tell your story and stuff like that. But what can somebody do?
Honestly, start having the conversations. Start stopping at that point where it hurts and start going further past that point and have those uncomfortable conversations, because you will find that the point where you thought it was like the hurt point, it isn't the hurt point. That's I call it that the discovery point, because that's really when you start knowing the person. Is like, if I ask you just for your name, okay, that's cool, but like, let me ask you about how your day was. Let me ask you about how your life has been. Then that's the point where I really get to know you. That's the point I really get to discover that you and I are no different. So it's stop just going on the surface and start getting deeper into conversations with people. Stop just, and I would encourage somebody to talk to 3 people a day who they wouldn't really talk to, whether it be online or just face to face. Like, just if you see somebody who you say, you know what, in another different life I would have never seen me and you hanging out, but I want to know your story. Because when you honestly know somebody else's story, you can't not love them. Like, for real, like, unless you're just a super judgy individual, which, once somebody knows your story, they might not like you too. But why wouldn't you want to know somebody else's story? Because once you know somebody else's story, then you know how to approach them, you know how to communicate to them, you know how to to respond to what they need. So yeah, get to know people's stories.
Sweet, man.
Yeah,
it's good advice.
This episode, was this 4 or 5?
I don't know, dude. It might be number 1. We might be putting this the first one.
He's
Rwandan. He's going first, baby.
Yeah. Every guest so far, whenever we ask what we can do, that's the answer they give. Have the conversations.
Yeah. Because, I mean, honestly, like, everything starts with a conversation. Like, had me and Nick never really had a conversation.
If he never stalked me.
Right, yeah. If I never stalked him online,
Yeah.
I honestly, I would have never got to be able to be here. I never really got would have never got a chance to cut his hair. I would have never got a chance to even talk to him. So, yes, have that conversation. Start a conversation. Just start. Like, the fear of people getting rejected, like, oh, they're not going to like me. It's like, well, they probably didn't like you anyway, so what's the point? Like, just go ahead and at least extend your hand out and say hi.
Yeah,
and then from there, figure out where you want to go. You can say hi and bye at the same time. Say, hey, nice to meet you. My name is so-and-so. Glad to meet you. All right, have a great day. Just that alone would make somebody's day, because there's people who go through the whole entire day and not talk to anybody. And you could be that person that shakes their hand and says, hey, how you doing? They haven't been asked that all day. The fact that you asked them, that could change their whole entire trajectory of their life, because they might be depressed, they might be going through something. That day might be the day that they had decided to commit suicide, but the moment that you say, hey, how you doing? How's everything going? You just might have just saved their life. So to me, it's worth saying hi to somebody.
Yeah, and we're filming this in a church right now, especially people that from the church believe certain things, a higher power, man. Like, this is your responsibility, I believe, too. It's like, there might be some people that can't do it, but I believe, people at church, like, that's our responsibility. It's like to go beyond what's comfortable.
Right.
See the pain that's out there, see how people are being neglected, and do something. And that do something isn't like set up this huge program or system to stop injustice necessarily. It's you getting close to someone that's experienced something different, understand where they've been hurt, where the pain is, or just understanding where they come from, because you're not around those type of people that often. And you get a bunch of people that do that, it's going to change things. It's got to come from the ground up, not from like expecting it to happen top down. So,
and if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Come on now.
To be honest, I mean, like, for real, like, you're in a church setting, or you going to church, and that's all you're doing, just going to church. That's cool. That's that's for your own self-righteousness, and that's for your own self-dignity. But like, the minute you step outside of yourself and actually go help somebody, the minute you actually see the pain point for people. The minute you look around your church congregation and you see that so-and-so isn't here with their child because their child is sick, or their child is somewhere, or so-and-so is not here with their spouse because their spouse is sick, or they just went through a huge divorce, but you're so caught up in everything else extracurricular that you don't take the time to say, hey, how can I help you? How can I serve you? You're neglecting your own church members, unintentionally, unfortunately, but because you're not paying attention. The minute you look up and you start looking around and you start seeing people who have been wearing the same outfit for the last three services, pay attention to that. The kids who are always hanging around the snacks because they're not getting enough to eat at the house. The mom that walks in with 5 or 6 kids, and she's just trying to get by. That guy that walks in by himself and leaves by himself every Sunday. That's your mission. That's your calling. Don't neglect them because you're just like, oh well, they're here, the pastor's gonna get it. No, you saw it. Now you have to do something about it. Don't be afraid of that responsibility of actually going out and helping somebody. So yeah,
there he is, man.
Cool.
He's good. He's Theo. He's the Smiling Barber. Theo _ the Smiling Barber.
Yes, sir.
On Instagram, social media. He's starting a podcast, Beyond the Clippers. So we'll get all that information up, and
thank you.
People can follow him, listen to him, and get a haircut from him. I mean, it's quite the trifecta there.
Hey, you get everything: a conversation and a haircut. What more can you ask for?
What more can you? So, man, I appreciate you. Appreciate your friendship.
Appreciate you, man. Hey. You know what? No,
you can look it up later.
No. You're welcome, Nick. You are welcome. You are welcome. The dynamics of he can speak Rwandan, I understand Rwandan, I can respond back in English. For some of you guys that need a translator, Nick had just said, "Thank you very much," and I just said, "You're welcome, Nick." So yeah, there you go. I'll play that role.
Murakoze. Tuzangera. Appreciate you. Thank you, Quinn.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, City Church, for hosting. Check out our show, For the Neglected. It's at For the Neglected. I'm at Schultz Time. And catch you next week. Peace out, man.